Hey everyone, welcome back to So Arizona. Today we are going on a treasure hunt. So I've got my harvest basket and we are going to be harvesting potatoes. And I want to talk about some of the ways you know when potatoes are ready. Just a couple of days ago, I was watering my garden. It needed a little extra TLC because we have just been getting unseasonably hot temperatures. It was 102 at my house yesterday, and it is not even April yet, which is definitely unusual, even for us here in southern Arizona. And as I was watering, I noticed a couple little potatoes peeking up out of the soil. So I planted these potatoes several months ago. They are a row 7 seeds variety called Upstate Abundance. And actually this is the right size for them. You can actually see that this one has some sunburn on it because it was peeking up out of the soil. I also had some that were really itty bitty, just like this too, but I'm hoping that not all of them are this small. Normally when potatoes are starting to form tubers, they will also start developing flowers. And these flowers can be really beautiful. They can be white or purple or maybe a pink color, and they're lovely little flowers. They look like a typical nightshade flower because they are in the nightshade family, so very similar to tomatoes or peppers. Once those flowers fade, those tubers are going to continue to develop, and then after a few weeks the vine will start to yellow and start to wither and die. And at that point you know that your tubers are ready to be dug. I'm going to make a little bit of a disclaimer here, and that is that I'm not actually sure that these potatoes are ready, and that's because they never formed flowers. They skipped that part, and then the plants are actually starting to yellow and look really bad. Some of them have died back. So at this point I need the bed, and it looks like the potato vines are not doing well, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull them and see what I find. And I thought that it would be fun to bring you along with me. I've never grown this variety of potato before, so I'm really not familiar with its growth and development pattern. However, usually any kind of potato variety will follow that process of first flowering and then having the plants die back. So I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to find since mine didn't flower, and now they are looking pretty sickly. So we're going to dig down and see how many potatoes I find, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about how to store your potatoes so that you can enjoy them for the longest amount of time possible. Of course, eating potatoes fresh is actually the very best because the skins are so thin and they are so delicious. So definitely, if you're growing potatoes, make sure you try a couple fresh too. Since we are having a heat wave for the next week and a half, I have got my entire garden covered in burlap and in shade cloth just to try to shelter those plants a little bit, because of course this heat wave coincides with when I am trying to harden off some of my seedlings from inside. So I'm just trying to protect them as much as possible. And you may notice that there is a lot of covered material in the background, and that is what is going on. Back to the potatoes. The best tool I find for digging up the potatoes gently and not risking damaging them too much is a pitchfork. I like to start around the edges of the bed and gently push down and lift up, hopefully not spearing any in the process. So let's see how many we find. Every time I manage to shish kebab a little potato, I started on the sides and tried to work my way around, but eventually had to go toward the middle. I always miss a few, and this one got it, but I'm going to try to clean it up and put it with my breakfast. I will weigh this basket of potatoes and put the weight that I ended up harvesting on the screen for you in case you're interested. Once you harvest your potatoes, the skin is going to be really thin and delicate. So I don't wash those potatoes. I will just gently brush excess dirt off, and then I'll take them inside and lay them out on a flat piece of cardboard just for a couple of days, just to give them a chance to kind of harden up just a little bit. Potatoes are different from sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes need a couple of weeks to cure, but you're not really curing the potatoes. You're just trying to let those skins harden up enough so that you can then put them into a basket, and that way they don't scuff each other and peel the skin off. You want to make sure that skin is intact because they won't store well if the skin is damaged. And then after I put those on cardboard for a couple of days, I will just put them into a basket or a box and store them in my dark, cool pantry. And that's really about it. It's super easy. I wanted to share a little bit more about Row 7 Seeds because I think it's a really cool company and a cool concept. So it is a partnership between farmers and chefs and plant breeders, and they are looking to develop plants that produce fruits and vegetables that are ideal for cooking. So they're looking at texture, they're looking at flavor. So these are not necessarily varieties that are going to be super well adapted to certain growing conditions. These Upstate Abundance potatoes are grown, obviously, in New York, where it is much different than the climate here in southern Arizona. If I had to make a hypothesis about why the vines weren't doing very well and why they were withering before they flowered and why I had to harvest them before the potatoes were all fully formed, it would probably be that, for one thing, we had a very unseasonably warm winter, so it was just too hot for potatoes in general. Although I do have some potatoes on the other side of the garden that are doing really well right now. They are holding their own, but not all potato varieties, like any other variety in the garden, are going to respond well to extreme conditions like extreme heat or extreme cold. And I think these Upstate Abundance potatoes are probably just not built for desert conditions. However, I don't regret growing them. I think they're delicious. I still got a pretty good harvest considering that I only planted 6 or 8 potatoes. So I got a whole harvest basket full. So that's enough for a couple of meals, and it was just a really fun experiment to try. I do want to tell you, I did check on my other potatoes that I'm growing on the other side of the garden. I've got some really neat varieties over there, a couple that are considered very rare according to the website that I ordered them from. I will put the company on the screen so that you can see which one it is, but I'm going to share more about them later, but so far they're really, really good. And I know that because I may have sneaked a couple that were growing up near the surface. I swiped them, I took them inside and baked them just to kind of see what I am in for. They're supposed to be really heavy producers, so I cannot wait to share with you the varieties and how they taste. I think I'm going to do a potato taste test, kind of like I did with the tomato taste test. And if you haven't checked out that video, I will link it below. But I just think it's kind of fun to get a review from a person for how they taste and how they grew, especially if it's in the same region that you're in. So I look forward to making that video for you very soon. I think those potatoes are going to be ready to harvest within a month or so. They haven't bloomed yet. The foliage is still nice and green, and I'm going to be hilling the potatoes just to make sure that they keep producing as many as possible. Thank you all so much for joining me here again as we go on a treasure hunt and dig for potatoes. I'm Kara from Upstate Arizona. Until next time, happy gardening.